The tower sits alone at the end of the road. That's how I usually describe it to people, if they ask. The pavement twists its way up the mountain, narrows, cracks, and then just stops. After that, it's dirt, rock, and a footpath my grandfather wore into the earth over decades. Pines crowd in on both sides, tall and quiet, their branches creaking when the wind pushes through them. At night, the snow reflects the moon just enough to see your breath. The tower hums constantly, not loudly, just enough that you notice it when everything else goes quiet. Old equipment has a sound to it, like it's breathing. Relays click. The transmitter vibrates faintly under my boots. The red warning light at the top blinks on and off, steady as a heartbeat. It doesn't feel haunted. Alive, maybe, but not angry, not hungry. I do my broadcasts at night. Always have. There's something about the hours after midnight when people are more honest. Just voices traveling through the dark, hoping someone is on the other end. I sit in the same chair my grandfather did. Vinyl cracked, stuffing gone soft. A mug of coffee sits on the console beside me, forgotten more often than not. By the time the first call comes in, it's already cold. Some nights the phone doesn't ring at all. Other nights it rings once every hour. And then there are nights where it feels like the tower itself is listening, waiting, deciding who gets through. The signal doesn't reach far. Anyone who looks us up will tell you that. Low power, old tech. Barely worth the electricity. But every once in a while, someone calls from a place that shouldn't be able to hear us at all. I stopped questioning that years ago. My dad died when I was young enough that my memories of him feel borrowed. Photos, stories told too many times. I remember his laugh, I think. Or maybe that's just what I want to remember. After he passed, my grandfather stepped in without ever announcing it. He was there. Packed my lunches, taught me how to split wood, sat beside my bed when I couldn't sleep. He was a quiet man. He believed in doing things properly, even if no one noticed. The radio tower was his life's work. He ran it for decades, long before I was born. It never made much money. Barely kept the lights on some years, but it gave him something to wake up for. A reason to put on his coat and walk the path up the mountain every morning. When I was a kid, the station was already struggling. Advertisers had left. New technology had moved on without us. I remember overhearing conversations about selling the land, shutting it down, letting it go quiet. Then one night, everything changed. My grandfather was alone in the tower, running a late broadcast. Sometime after midnight, he heard a gunshot echo through the trees. Then a scream, not an animal, but a man, close and desperate. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle and ran down the stairs, boots pounding metal, breath burning his chest. Out past the lights, into the snow, he found a man on the ground, torn up and bleeding, holding a knife with shaking hands. A grizzly bear loomed over him, massive and furious. My grandfather fired once. The bear went down just feet from the man. He dragged the stranger back to the tower, wrapped him in blankets, did what he could to stop the bleeding and call 911. The man drifted in and out, whispering thanks, clutching my grandfather's sleeve like he was afraid to let go. By the time help arrived, the man was stable. Before they took him away, though, he asked to be left alone with my grandfather for a moment. He told him he was a shaman, or something close to it. Someone who listened to things most people couldn't hear. As thanks, he blessed the tower. He said it would never truly fail, that even if its reach was small, it would always find the people who needed it most. The signal would go where it was meant to go. My grandfather nodded politely. He never talked about it much after that, just mentioned it once like an old footnote. But not long after, the calls started changing. People began calling in with stories that didn't sit right. Voices too calm, details that didn't add up, some of them that claimed they were dead. My grandfather didn't argue, he just listened. Eventually, the tower became mine. The chair, the console, the hum, and the calls. Now, I'm the one answering the phone. And some nights, I swear the tower knows who needs to be heard. The phone rang at 12:17 a.m. That number stays with me. I can't tell you why. I've taken calls at every hour a night can hold. Most of them blurred together, but that one landed hard. I had just finished reading the weather report for the county, even though no one calls in for it anymore. Old habit. My grandfather used to say you didn't cut corners just because the audience got smaller. Outside the tower, the wind kept moving through the pines. It pushed at the metal siding in slow bursts. Snow tapped against the windows and slid down in small sheets. I reached for the receiver and pressed the button. Mountain Broadcast, you're on with Max. A pause. Then a man's voice, low and worn. I don't know if this is the right place. It's the place you got through to, I answered. He let out a breath that sounded like it hurt. I'm dead. I didn't ask him to repeat it. I didn't laugh. I didn't tell him to stop wasting my time. There was a point years ago when I used to do that. When I believed the tower was only just a tower. When I believed every strange call had a trick behind it. That point ended. How long? Not long. Feels recent, but time is different now. Sorry, I don't know what I'm allowed to say. You can say whatever you need to say. I died at 55. I waited. The tower kept humming. The meters glowed steady. A faint crackle rode under the line, not interference, not static, but something else. A thread of distance. My name don't matter. I don't think it does. I'm not calling for anyone to know me. I'm calling because I don't want to be the last lesson I ever gave. I leaned forward, elbows on the console. Tell me what happened. He didn't start with the end. He started with the first drink. I drank when I was a teenager. Not a lot at first, weekends, parties. Then it turned into nights I didn't want to feel anything, and then it turned into mornings. I told myself I had reasons. I told myself my job was hard, my marriage was hard, life was hard. I told myself I deserved something that made it quiet in my head. And it worked. For a while. Then it became the reason things were hard. I didn't interrupt. When people call from far away, the wrong word can shut them down. Not because they get offended, but because something seems to pull them back. I was a father. I was supposed to be a father. I had a boy, one son. I used to hold him when he was little. I used to laugh with him. I used to tell him I'd always be there. Then I started showing up different. I didn't think I was changing. That's the part that makes me sick. I thought I was still me. I thought I was just tired. I wasn't hitting him. I won't like that. But I was worse in ways I didn't understand. I was a storm in the house. I was a weight in the doorway. I made people tense before I even spoke. I said things to my son, to his mother. I said things that stayed with him. I don't mean arguments. I mean words that get planted and don't leave. I was the kind of man who could take a good day and ruin it just by being there. My finger stayed on the edge of the desk still. I get home and look at the bills and feel rage. I'd see toys on the floor and feel rage. I'd hear a question and feel it. I'd feel it because the bottle won't enough anymore. I needed bigger feelings, louder feelings. I called him weak. I called him stupid. I told him he was soft. I told him he'd never make it. I told him he was embarrassing, and he made me ashamed. I didn't see what I was doing. I didn't see the way he watched me. I didn't see how he started folding into himself. I didn't see the anger building in him, the way it made him leave the room faster. Then he got older and he got distant, and I blamed him. I said he was ungrateful. I said he was disrespectful, that he didn't know what real problems were. I looked at the phone line lights, steady. My son grew up angry. He grew up with a locked jaw, with fists in his pockets, and he grew up waiting for the next moment I would turn on him. And then, when he finally got out, when he became a man, he took that anger with him. He took it into his own life, into his relationships, into his own head. But I gave it to him. I handed it down and called it love. When did you realize it? I asked. Too late. He told me about his later years. He kept drinking, he lost jobs. He worked ones he hated, he made promises he didn't keep. Showed up late, showed up drunk, and acted as if everyone else was the problem. His son, he said, tried to talk to him more than once. I thought those talks were attacks. I treated them as attacks. I went on defense. I turned it around. I blamed my son for being sensitive. I blamed him for my choices. The towers hummed deepened for a second, then returned to its normal pitch. The wind shifted, the windows rattled. My son got help. I didn't even know. Went to therapy, he joined groups, he did the work. He took apart what I did to him piece by piece, and he spent years doing it. When he came back around, I didn't deserve it. But he did it anyway, and he tried again, and I messed it up again. It was the last time. I waited. He called me. He was older then. He had kids. I didn't even know how many at first. That's the kind of father I was. We talked. I don't remember what started it. I just remember the heat. I remember him saying he couldn't do it anymore, that he'd spent decades trying to stop hearing my voice in his head. His words came slower now. He said, "How could you ever do that to us as a father?" He said I would never treat my children that way. He said it took his whole life to overcome what I gave him. I told him he was dramatic. I told him he was exaggerating. I told him he was blaming me for his failures. I said, after everything I did for you? That was the last thing I ever said to him. How long after that? 2 weeks, maybe 3. It don't matter. My body gave out, my liver, my heart. Things fail when you spend years pouring poison through them. I went into the hospital and I didn't come out. I died with my son mad at me. I died with him disappointed in me. And I died feeling proud of him, but feeling proud of my son for overcoming everything, but I had too much pride in myself to tell him. So I'm calling you. For what? For someone else? For the man with the bottle in his hand who still thinks he has time? For the man who needs to hear that, who thinks his kids will forgive him because kids forgive? For the man who thinks he can fix it later? You gotta fix it now. I'm calling for the man who's training his son to hate himself. I want him to hear me. I'm not asking forgiveness. I know what I did. I'm not asking you to say I was good. I won't. I'm asking you to let it be heard. I hear you. And so does everybody else. Thank you. If it stops one person, then maybe this call counts for something. The line went quiet. I stayed there with my hand on the console, waiting for the click, for the break. A soft pop sounded in my ear, and then there was nothing. I didn't fill the silence with music. I didn't rush into the next thing. I let it sit. And then I spoke steady. You're listening to Mountain Broadcast. If that story hits you, you're not alone tonight. Lines are open. The phone rang within seconds. I answered. A young man this time. His voice had a shake in it that he didn't try to hide. Max, I've been listening for a few nights. I didn't call before. I'm here. He swallowed. I've got twin babies. 6 months, 2 boys. They fall asleep on my chest and I feel this. I feel this love that scares me. I'm an alcoholic. I'm saying it out loud because I don't say it anywhere else. I drink every day. Not always a lot, but enough. Enough that I'm not fully there. That man, 55, that call, I heard my future. I heard it like a door opening. I don't want my sons to look at me like that. I don't want them to learn my voice as a threat. I don't want them to spend their lives trying not to become me. I'm done. I'm scared, but I'm done. I'm calling my brother after this. He's been begging me to get help. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. Do it tonight. I will. Thanks, Max. He hung up. The phone rang again and I answered. This one was older than the last, but not too old. A man in the middle years. Quiet voice, careful words. I haven't talked to my dad in years. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. I want to. That's the problem. I want to, and I don't. We had a fight years ago. It turned into a whole thing. Then it turned into silence. I don't even remember what started it now. I swear to you, I can't remember. I remember the feeling, though. Remember being certain I was right. I remember wanting him to hurt the way I was hurting. I remember pride. I remember the ways days pass and you tell yourself you'll call tomorrow. Then I hear that man who died at 55. And I keep thinking about that last conversation. About how the last thing you say can become the only thing you get. I don't know if my dad's a good man. I don't know if he'll change. I don't know if I'll even get what I want out of it, but I don't want this to be the rest of my life. I don't want to wake up one day and find out the choice is gone. Are you going to call him? Yeah. After this, I'm going to call him. All right. Call him. Thank you. And then the line went dead. I sat in the tower, listening to the hum, watching the lights, feeling the night press against the windows. Somewhere out there, 2 babies slept on a father's chest. Somewhere out there, a man stared at a phone and tried to find the right first word. And somewhere else, beyond the mountain and beyond the roads, a voice that should not have reached me had reached me anyway. The tower kept doing what it was blessed to do. It found the people who needed to hear it. The line rang again not long after the last caller hung up. I checked the clock. Just past 1 in the morning. Mountain Broadcast, you're on. Hey, so this is the famous mountain radio thing, huh? That's one way to describe it. He laughed. Man, this is wild. Didn't think I'd get through. Guess reception's better on my end now. I leaned back in the chair. What's your name? Ken. 18. Well, forever 18, I guess. Forever's a long time. Tell me about it. Still trying to wrap my head around that part. So, you cool with dead people calling in? Or am I about to get kicked off the air? I smiled despite myself. You're not the first one tonight. Okay, good. Didn't want to be the weird guy. I didn't tell him that every caller thinks they're the weird one. What made you call? Honestly, I was listening. That other guy, the dad, that was heavy. It was. Figured I'd lighten things up a bit. You know, dead teenager radio hour. You don't have to do that. I know, he replied. His voice dipped for just a second, then came back. But it's kind of how I talk. Guess I don't know any other way yet. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. We sat in the quiet for a moment. The hum of the equipment filled the space between us. So, I said, gentle, why tonight? Ken didn't answer right away. The silence stretched longer than before. I died on prom night. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. It was supposed to be perfect. That's what everyone kept saying. Big deal, end of something, start of something else. I didn't even care that much, honestly. It was just prom. My buddies and I pooled money for a bottle, cheap whiskey. The kind that burns on the way down. We didn't get wasted right away, just pass it around, small sips, laughing, talking trash, talking about nothing, talking about everything. I felt unstoppable. Not in a superhero way, just like nothing bad could touch me. Like I was standing at the front of my life and everything was waiting behind me. The wind outside pressed against the tower. My date was there. She looked amazing. I remember thinking I should tell her more things. I remember thinking, there would be time. There it was. Everyone that calls in always thinks they have more time. After the dance, we were heading out. Parking lot was packed, people yelling, music still going inside, and my buddies were behind us. I heard him call my name. Something stupid, a joke. I turned around to shout back. I stepped into the road, didn't even look, didn't think I had to. There was a car, fast, too fast for me to do anything, head on. That was it. 1 second I was laughing, next second I wasn't anywhere anymore. When I realized what happened, the first thing I felt wasn't pain, it was confusion. Like someone had skipped a page. I kept thinking I'd wake up in a hospital in my bed somewhere. I kept waiting for the next part. What hurts the most now? That I didn't get to try. That life was done for me. I didn't get to mess up from something. I didn't get to learn from my mistakes. Didn't get a job I hated. Didn't get a job I loved. Didn't get to move somewhere new and fall in love for real. I had plans. They weren't even big plans, but plans nonetheless. I wanted to see places. I wanted to be good at something. I wanted to make mistakes and laugh about them later. I wanted more time to figure out who I was. I barely started. I hear people talk about wasted lives. That's not what this is. I didn't waste mine. I didn't get a chance to start it. I think about my parents. About my mom folding my laundry and not knowing she was doing it for the last time. About my dad telling me to try and drive safe. I think about the stuff I thought mattered. Grades, drama, all that noise, and how small it feels now. But that's why I called. I just wanted someone to hear it. Thanks, radio guy. This was good. Weird, but good. You're welcome, Ken. Hey, if anyone's listening who thinks that life is going to keep going for him, who's waiting to live, maybe don't. Live it now. I think they'll hear you. That's what's special about this broadcast. Cool. Thanks, Max. That's all I wanted. There was a click. The line went dead. I sat there, hands folded, eyes on the dark glass of the window. Then the phone rang again. Mountain Broadcast. I'm 35. I don't know why I'm calling. Man, that kid. I'm listening. I've been drifting, going to work, coming home, watching days stack up, telling myself I'll do something later. I don't hate my life. That's the problem. It's fine. Just fine enough to keep me stuck. I don't take chances. I don't try. I don't risk failing. I don't risk wanting something. And then I hear an 18-year-old say he never got to try, and I realize I'm acting like I don't either. I'm done wasting time. I don't know what that means yet, but I know it starts tomorrow. That sounds right. He didn't stay on the line. He hung up. The tower hummed on. Somewhere, a life ended before it could stretch out. Somewhere else, another life shifted course. The signal kept moving through the dark, finding its way where it was needed. The phone didn't ring right away after the last call. I watched the clock tick forward. The tower settled around me. Snow slid from the roof in a soft rush and vanished into the dark below the windows. Then the line lit up. Mountain Broadcast, you're on. The voice that came through was steady. Not weak, not strained, warm in a quiet way. Good evening, the man said. Good evening. He took a breath, slow and unhurried. My name don't matter much anymore, but I'm 85 and I'm dead. I waited for the wait that usually follows those words. It didn't come. Instead, he chuckled. I don't mean to drop that on you like it's bad news, it ain't. At least not to me. I leaned back in my chair. All right, what would you like to talk about? My life, if that's okay. It is. I grew up poor, real poor. Thin walls, second-hand everything. Some winters we wore coats inside, but I never once thought I was missing something. My parents loved us. That covered a lot. I was the oldest. Learned early how to help. Learned how to work. Learned how to be tired and keep going. I met my wife when I was young. Too young, some people said, but they were wrong. I knew when I saw her that my life was changing. We stayed married, not because it was easy, but because we chose it over and over. The tower hummed. We had 8 kids. 8. I know how that sounds, even now. There were years when the house never slept. Years when we didn't sit down. Years when money was a constant worry. But there were dinners. Every night we could manage it, a table full of noise. Plates passed hand to hand, arguments, jokes, complaints. Stories about school and stories about nothing. Oh, there was laughter, the kind that makes your sides ache, the kind that sneaks up on you when you're exhausted. I pictured it. My kids grew. They became themselves, different from one another, strong in ways I didn't expect and stubborn in ways that drove me crazy. And then they had kids, 26 of them. 26 chances to watch life start fresh. I watched them learn to walk. I watched them scrape knees. I watched them roll their eyes at me when I told stories they'd heard too many times. I watched my wife age. That might sound strange to say out loud, but it was one of the great privileges of my life. I held her hand when it shook. I held it when it grew weaker. I held it when words came slower for her. The studio felt very still. We buried people. Friends, family, children in some cases. And that don't ever stop hurting. And it shouldn't. There were hard years when nothing worked, years when we were angry, years when we didn't know how we'd get through the next one. But I wouldn't trade any of it. Not a single year, not a single day. Pain was part of it. Loss was part of it. But so was love. So was meaning. So was waking up knowing who you belong to and who belonged to you. Are you at peace? Yeah. Yes, I am, he said without hesitation. I didn't call to boast. I didn't call to tell anyone they did it wrong. Then why did you call, my friend? Because people forget. They forget that a good life isn't rare. It's built day by day, meal by meal, choice by choice. They think meaning has to arrive all at once. That happiness is something you wait for or win or stumble into. It ain't. The tower's lights glowed steady. I wanted someone listening tonight to know it's possible. That you don't need to be special. You just need to show up. And I wanted to say thank you for listening, for keeping this place open. You're welcome. He smiled into the line. I think that's all. I've said my piece. Thank you for sharing it. The line went quiet. I sat there for a moment longer than usual, letting the absence settle. Then the phone rang again. Mountain Broadcast. The voice on the other end was young, thoughtful. Hey, I'm 24. I didn't think I'd ever call a place like this. I'm glad you did. I've always thought a life like that was unrealistic. Marriage that lasts, family that stays, waking up content. I thought it was something other people got. Luck, timing, things you don't control. But that guy, the one who looked at 85, listening to him, it changed something in me. I want that life. I don't know exactly how yet, but I want it. And for the first time, I think it's actually possible. Hold on to that. I will. Thank you, Max, and thank you for this station. He hung up. The tower hummed on. Outside, the mountain stood where it always had. Inside, the signal kept moving, quiet and patient, carrying voices through the night to anyone willing to listen. The calls slowed down after that. Not all at once, just enough that I noticed the gaps. I sit with the phone in front of me, watching the seconds move across the clock. Outside the windows, the mountain keeps its place. Wind moves through the trees and presses against the tower in low bursts. Snow drifts where it wants to drift. The equipment hums. It always hums. A steady sound that fills the space when voices are gone. Lights glow on the console. Meters twitch now and then, even without a call. The tower never goes fully still. I take a sip of my coffee and wince. Cold. I set it down. There was a time when I thought the quiet meant failure. When I first took over after my grandfather passed, I would sit here and stare at the phone, waiting, wondering if I was doing something wrong. Wondering if I was wasting my life in a place the world had moved past. I don't think like that anymore. The nights taught me something. You can sit alone in this tower and never feel alone at all. I think about the voices from earlier. The man who died with words stuck between him and his son. The kid who never got to try. The old man who lived a life so fulfilling he had nothing left to ask for. I love this job. That still surprises me when I say it, even to myself. There is no applause, no numbers worth bragging about. Most people don't even know this station exists. But every night I sit here, I feel like I'm part of something that matters, People trust me with things they've never said out loud. They hand me moments from their lives and ask me to hold them steady long enough for someone else to hear. That does something to a person. I glance at the empty chair across from me, the one my grandfather used to sit in when I was a kid and he let me stay up too late. He'd slide the headphones off one ear and ask if I was tired. I always said no. He never pushed. He believed in this place with a quiet certainty. Never tried to explain it. He just showed up night after night and listened. When the shaman told him the tower would never go under, that it would always reach whoever it needed to reach, my grandfather laughed it off. But over time, when the tower started receiving calls from the dead, my grandfather believed. The signal doesn't go far. Anyone with a map and a calculator could tell you that. There are valleys and ridges and dead zones that swallow it whole. But it doesn't need to reach everyone. It never did. It just needs to reach someone. The ones sitting in their kitchens at night staring at a bottle. The ones driving with the radio on late at night with things on their mind. The ones lying awake wondering if this is all life has to offer. The ones who think it's too late or too early or already decided. The tower finds them. It always does. I checked the phone lines one last time. No new lights. All right, I say into the mic. My voice sounds softer now. We're going to start wrapping up for the night. I pause, then add, if you're still listening, I'm glad you're here. I think about the grandfather who raised me after my real father died. The way he stepped into that space without complaint. I think about how he'd probably smile if he knew what this place had become. I reach for the switch. This has been Mountain Broadcast. Wherever you are, take care of yourself. We'll be here again tomorrow night. I let the last song play out. A simple one. Something my grandfather liked. When it ends, I lower the fader. The static rises for a moment, then fades. The tower keeps humming. And somewhere out there, someone heard exactly what they needed to hear. Hey everybody, Kevin here from Nightmares Nightly. I hope you enjoyed that one. I wrote this after I wrote the second Afterlife call center, of which I am working on the third. Pretty much done, just need to get it recorded. That is one of my favorite series, and it's one of y'all's too. Tell me, the Mountain Broadcast is mainly about regrets and lessons. People call in with what they should have done in life, or what they should have said, who they should or should not have said it to. Tell me, if you heard the Mountain Broadcast one night, and if you called in, what would you say? What's that regret? What's that thing left unsaid? What's that argument you got into with a loved one or a friend? And try to pass some wisdom down in the comments down below. Talking about your mistakes really helps those who haven't made that mistake not repeat it. I appreciate you all being here with me. And as always, thanks for listening, everybody.